Welcome to Post-Burnout.com interviews. My name is Aaron Kavanagh and I'm the website's founder and editor-in-chief. Post-Burnout.com is a culture website dedicated to venerating burnt-out artists the world over. Our interviews are mainly recorded to be transcribed, but every now and again we release the audio in a series we call Post-Burnout.com interviews. If you enjoy what we do, be sure to subscribe. In this edition of Post-Burnout.com interviews, we speak with Martina Moon, the eponymous lead singer of the Dublin alt-rock band Martina and the Moons. Martina discusses the band's new single Emigrate, her experience as a young budding songwriter, moving from Spain to Ireland, starting the band in BIMM, their upcoming appearance at the Stand Together Gaza Crisis Appeal Fundraiser, her thoughts on separating art from artists, and more.
Yeah, so the first thing I wanted to ask you is you were kind of telling me just before we start recording that you go to BIMM. Mm-hmm. I was wondering what kind of brought you there and kind of was that something you always wanted to do as a kid, be a musician?
I always kind of wanted to do something to do with art, something I don't know, I used to go to dance classes and then I used to paint a lot as well, and I also wanted to be a fashion designer at one point, which is, it's funny. I always wanted to do something to do with art, and my dad is a musician, so he kind of would always be playing music, and that kind of got me into playing guitar and stuff. And BIMM, I just found it because I was looking for music college, and I used to live in Spain. I lived in Spain for 13 years, more or less. Yeah, 13. And there's not really any contemporary music colleges in Spain. It's more on the classical side. I just came across BIMM Dublin and just came here.
Did you move to Dublin specifically to go to college? Or?
Yeah. I did.
How did you find it? Compared to Spain, the music scene here.
Oh, definitely much bigger than in Spain. And
so, which part of Spain are you from?
I'm from Salamanca. Okay. It's near Portugal, and there's really not that much going on. I guess if I'd gone to Madrid or something like that, even I lived for a bit in Barcelona, and there was a bit of a music scene, but definitely not at the level that Dublin has it, and it's just. Yeah, it's just refreshing to have such a big environment to kind of move around in.
Well, I was kind of looking at your sort of influences. It seemed to kind of mainly be sort of American kind of 60s pop artists and folk artists. And actually, the first time I saw you guys was at the Ladies First Cover thing, and you were dressed as Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, yeah.
I forget which song you covered. You covered a Fleetwood Mac song. I can't remember off the top of my head which one it was, but was your influence in terms of music always kind of international, or did you have kind of a domestic Spanish influence or stuff?
I have some Spanish influence. More kind of modern Spanish musicians. I don't know. I love Rosalia. I love Amaya. She's also a Spanish artist. She's really good. But yeah, mostly, I grew up listening to, I don't know, Paul Simon, Carole King, Joni Mitchell and all that, because my dad was a big fan. Mm-hmm. I also listened to, loads of bands, from, the UK and stuff. My dad used to, play Beatles songs all the time, the Stones and stuff like that. So, yeah, just kind of, mainly a mix of American and British bands, not that much Spanish.
So when you kind of came to Ireland, because all the acts you kind of mentioned are big in Spain, they're big here, they're kind of I don't know, did you have trouble kind of finding people who were kind of into the same stuff you were into?
You mean here in Ireland? Not really, no, because I feel I'm a bit basic in what I like and stuff, and I'm a bit mainstream. I do the classics. I do all the singer-songwriters and the kind of big bands from the 70s, Fleetwood Mac, like you were saying. Yeah. And also a lot of 90s stuff, Britpop and rock and stuff. But here in Dublin it was definitely much easier than in Spain. Because people actually listen to music in English.
Yeah.
In Spain, all my friends used to listen to Spanish music, like kind of like reggaeton and stuff like that, and even like I don't know, they wouldn't necessarily be into music that was in English more. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry.
And then for yourself, I mean, like, did you speak English like before coming to Ireland? Did you learn music? Actually, some people like learn like foreign language through music. Was that the case for you, or?
No, so I was born in Scotland, in Glasgow, and my dad is Scottish. So since I was very little, my mum used to speak to me in Spanish, and my dad would speak to me in English. So I'm bilingual.
Cool. Yeah.
And what was the other question? Sorry.
Yeah, no, so sorry, because I know some people, like I was saying, like kind of learn music through.
Oh, yeah.
Well, just art in general, I guess, even like foreign films and stuff. I know, like, I have a friend from Belgium who learned like English through watching films.
Yeah, I've found, like, I've come across people who, like, one of my friends from my accommodation, she's German, but she learned English through, like, American TV shows, so she has like an American accent. It's so weird to like talk to her because it's like, are you actually not American?
Yeah, I noticed that. It's so cool because like you get people who are like, you know, kind of get like listen to like British media and kind of like American media and stuff. And they kind of have this like very distinctive kind of language, accent that's kind of like kind of cobblestone from like both of them. I think that's like really cool. I always think it's like really interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I feel like for me as well, it did like. My dad moved back to Scotland when I was 9, so I was only speaking Spanish like regularly for years, you know, and like I kind of got like my English got a bit rusty, a bit like out of use. So getting into more music in English kind of kept me going, kept me like understanding what like stuff in English. I know my English is not perfect, but like it did help me to like not lose that connection with the language, because I wouldn't speak it as regularly, but I would listen to it and read stuff in English.
Well, all the music you've written so far with Martina Moon has been in English. Have you ever been tempted to write in Espanol?
I've tried a few times. I think I've only been somewhat successful once to like complete a song, but I didn't even like it. So it's just a bit unnatural to me because all my life I heard my dad and like my dad's albums and like him writing and singing in English. And as I was saying, Spanish music only came into my life like further on, and it's like more modern stuff and not necessarily in the genre that I would choose to write in. But also, I feel like knowing a different language gave me a bit of like a different perspective on songwriting and on like lyrics and stuff like that, because it's like I started writing when I was not that used to speaking English anymore, so I had to actually put in a lot of thought into like each sentence and each verse. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, I always find it very interesting when people like are kind of like are bilingual, like because like I was talking to, I don't know if you know the band Pitblom, but their lead singer, they're from the Netherlands, and I was like they do all their songs in English. I was like, well, are you ever tempted to do it like in Dutch? And they were kind of like, no, it's sort of, it actually helps because they write kind of like yourself. Like I mean, they write very like personal kind of lyrics and stuff, and they're saying the actual language helps to kind of detach that a little bit and kind of helps. It kind of makes it easier. I don't know if you feel that way too.
Yeah, definitely, and I did feel like it was a bit of it helped me build my artistic persona, to have these separate, and I feel like this happens to loads of like people who speak two languages, is that you kind of have like two personalities.
Sure.
I don't know if that makes sense, but like
No, I've heard that before. I'm not bilingual, but I have heard that kind of expression from other people.
Yeah, you have like, you view yourself differently, and like either language. So like I would say I'm kind of like more extroverted and like loud and stuff when I'm speaking Spanish, because per se as well, Spanish is like a louder language than English. And yeah, like the opposite when I'm speaking English, and I feel like that did help to kind of like build my artistic personality, I feel like.
This is a bit of a strange question, perhaps, but I think I'll throw it out there. When you dream, do you dream in Spanish or English?
I get asked this a lot.
Yeah. Well, because I think from like a creative perspective, I mean,
Yeah.
I think like dreams and creativity are quite intertwined. I don't know. I don't want to get all
Yeah, definitely.
psychological about it.
No, definitely. Yeah, I get asked that, and I also get asked what language do I think in.
Right.
So the dream thing, it's weird because it's both, really. It depends on who I'm dreaming about, mostly. So if I'm dreaming about people that I have only spoken English to, I will dream in English.
Mm-hmm.
And same with Spanish. But then when there's like other characters that come into it and everything like that, it'll be like mixing and stuff like that, and it's confusing, but at the same time, you know, like you get to a point where you don't really realize which language you're hearing stuff in.
Yeah.
And
do you ever do that thing? Because sometimes like I had an uncle who went to Germany for years, and he's for years just spoke fluent German. Then he came back to Ireland in retirement, and then like every now and again he would just accidentally slip into German while speaking to us, and it just
that happened to me, and I actually felt really embarrassed about it for some reason. But I remember I was probably like 10 or something like that, and I was in Scotland for the first time in like a couple of years, like just visiting family and stuff. And I was playing with my cousins, who were also like around my age or a little bit younger. And I was trying to like, you know how you like make up scenarios and stuff like that. And they're like, okay, we're going to pretend that whatever.
Right, playing a game, yeah.
Yeah. And then I accidentally started speaking Spanish to them for like a whole minute, and then when I stopped and realized what I'd done, this is so funny, but like I said, oh, pretend that's the language you're speaking, just so I wouldn't seem like I don't know.
So you brought Spanish to the region.
Yeah.
So then actually when kind of like you were saying as a kid, like you were your dad taught you guitar and stuff, and I was like wondering like I don't know, were you creating like your own songs at that point, or were you trying to like emulate what you were listening to?
Definitely at the start I was trying to emulate my dad, and also just artists that I was into and stuff. So even in my singing and stuff, I learned how to sing because I would sing Amy Winehouse songs all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't think I particularly sound like Amy Winehouse now, or that my style is kind of like in the same
vein of it.
Yeah. But no, definitely I feel like in every learning process there's a bit of imitation, and like it was definitely that for me. And then I didn't start writing songs until a couple of years after I started playing guitar, and I don't know, I feel like it is really important to like have references and learning stuff.
Do you remember the first song you wrote?
I do.
Were you trying to emulate someone, or was it kind of just something that came organically?
I don't think I was trying to emulate anything, but it was definitely, you know, that kind of YouTuber from like the like 2015, like doing like compilate like song videos. Right. I don't know, like
I know what you're talking about.
and like it was definitely in that kind of like route or like vein.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like I didn't think that much about it at that moment. It was just like, oh, I have a little like 3-chord song that I wrote, you know.
Right.
It wasn't like a big deal for me or anything. I didn't even know I was gonna you know, well, no one really knows, but I didn't think I was going to end up doing it more than once, you know.
When you were still in Spain, did you ever play live shows here, or did that not happen till you came to Ireland?
It didn't happen until I came to Ireland. Wait, here in Ireland or?
I was asking, sorry, when you were in Spain, so when you were kind of like learning to play guitar, did you ever do any live performances?
Yeah. So I had a cover band in Spain, and we would do kind of like basic like crowd pleasers, like I don't know, like Blondie, the Rolling Stones, even what else? What other stuff did we do? Like Depeche Mode and stuff like that. Just very kind of like basic popular songs. And that's kind of how I started playing piano as well, because I would play keys in that band, and I don't really enjoy playing keys as much as I enjoy playing guitar, but it was good to learn how to like put together chords and stuff like that. And it also taught me a lot about stage presence, because I was fronting the band. Mm-hmm. And, you know, for a cover gig, more than, I feel like it's more important than it's equally as important, but you're trying to get the crowd going, and you're trying to make them, like, have a nice evening and stuff, because they're not coming to see you, they're going to have their dinner, and then you're just playing there, you know.
Did you ever emulate the style of the front person whose song you were singing? So, say, for example, you were doing a Blondie cover, did you ever do a bit Debbie Harry?
Oh, yeah, definitely, definitely. I did a bit of Mick Jagger as well. I don't know why, but that entertains me so much. I would just look up videos of him and just do like the weird movements, and you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed that. I've always enjoyed kind of like character study. Mm-hmm. I would do, like when I was little, I would do like impressions of Amy Winehouse, and who else would I do? Oh, there's the Spanish singer. His name is Rafael, and my gran used to love
Rafael.
Yeah, my gran used to love him. So every New Year's Eve, I would like dress up and like, grab the remote for the telly and just sing to her as if I was him. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of, you know, character study in my development as a performer.
Well, that's so cool. I mean, like, you just see, like, you know, again, kind of like learning through play almost, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, you're doing something that you're just doing to entertain yourself or to entertain others, and kind of like, I don't know, do you feel that like still accumulates into what you're doing now, or do you feel like you've kind of left that behind?
I definitely haven't left it behind, no. See, I really find it hard to define myself, like, artistically, because I am a songwriter, like, above everything, but I'm also a performer.
Right.
And I think they're not separate from each other. I feel like performing just elevates the songwriting, the part of it, and yeah, I feel like I do carry a lot of that in what I do today, because I try to give as much of a performance as I can, because I feel like it's what you kind of like, it's what the crowd kind of deserves and stuff, and I know that sounds really pretentious, but they have paid a ticket to see you. Mm-hmm. You know, whatever your performance style is, even if it's not being like very active or being like moving around a lot, but you still have to perform in a sense.
Still to be checked in, yeah. I think some people, like, you know, they get to a point where it's just like, whatever, it's just routine, it's route, and it's just kind of like, you know, I think that always sucks. It's weird, I get what you're saying. Like, it's hard to define, I guess, because like I've definitely seen musicians live where it's like they're not really. It's not like you're jumping around. It's not like you're Mick Jagger, for example. But I still feel like, okay, but they're in the moment, like they're actually here. Where I've definitely seen artists, and I won't name names, but it's just like you just don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I really like.
You're doing karaoke.
Yeah, I love kind of like the others, like that side of it of like you're performing, but you're kind of like just in the moment, like kind of like an Elliott Smith kind of vibe, or like even Amy Winehouse at the start when she used to do like kind of more like her with the guitar and everything. It was really like introspective and stuff, and And yeah, I do like that side of performance as well. I feel like it's necessary for a certain artist and for certain songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we were talking about like, you know, kind of like emulating people like Amy Winehouse or Mick Jagger. It's like, but then when it comes to like establishing yourself as Martina, I mean, do you kind of go like, I have to have this distinct kind of personality, or do you kind of just feel like, I don't know, just what you do organically is kind of what's going to define you?
I feel like I don't really know. I
Yeah.
do try to take little bits from every artist that I admire.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that nothing is truly original, and I feel like that's been up for debate for a really long time, and it's still up for debate, you know, but nothing is entirely original in my opinion. And the more references you have and the more you honor those references and are like vocal about them,
Yeah.
you know, the better your craft is, because you're trying to do the best you can with the resources that
Yeah.
you have, you know. So yeah, I definitely say that I do take loads of traits from different like parts of what I've learned, but that doesn't mean that it's less me.
Yeah.
It's just what made me.
Sure, totally. And then actually, when it came to kind of starting Martina Moon, so you're saying you're in your third year, so if I'm doing the maths correctly, we would start BIMM in about 2021, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So kind of just
Yeah.
like post-pandemic, kind
Yes.
of like, yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know, it's actually an influence too, like, you know, kind of like being stuck in your house to kind of make you go like, okay, I have to go on this. Were you in Spain when the pandemic was?
Yes, I was in Spain, and it definitely did influence my music. Because I was at home and I was just with my mum, and there would constantly be music
Yeah.
in the house, because if not, I would have probably gone crazy.
Fair, no, totally.
Yeah, and actually my mum said to me the other day, like, one of the things she misses the most about having me in Spain is that there would be music all the time.
Yeah.
Not necessarily me playing it, but just listening to it and like singing along and stuff like that. And yeah, during the pandemic, that was what I kind of like, you know, like grabbed onto for a little bit of sanity.
Yeah.
And it did inspire loads of songs, and it influenced, you know, my style and everything, because I feel like we as a collective, like, so I was a teenager then, you know, and it's such a hard phase to go through in life on its own.
Right, totally.
But added to, you know, you're at home, you only have kind of like the internet and stuff to connect to other people. It's like we had this, and I've read this somewhere. This is not an original thought, but we did have this kind of like nostalgia for something that we never lived. You know,
Totally.
we looked back on the past, and that's why I feel like all the fashion from the 70s and the 90s and stuff is coming back in cycles. It's because we wish we had lived as freely as they did, you know.
Yeah, especially because like at that time it's like so stagnant.
Yeah.
I do find that interesting, like kind of coming of age during the pandemic. Because I was talking to another artist, Cassia. He's a Bristol musician, and he's in a similar boat where he's like, yeah, you know, like his 18th birthday was just at home in Korea and stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, I'm old. I'm Tengo 29.
Oh yeah.
I think so. 29.
Yeah.
So yeah, me hablas muy mal. But yeah, so like I don't know. For me, I didn't have that transition. I did like a pretty normal transition from a teenager to adulthood.
Yeah.
Whereas like, you know, I was kind of in my mid-20s when the lockdown. I think it was like 20 something. Yeah, something like that. 25, 26 something. And yeah, then like the lockdowns happened, and it's just like, you know. But I don't know. I didn't feel like I missed out on a lot in life, but I do like. It was kind of interesting because you had like teenagers who were on the precipice of adulthood. It was like suddenly their lives and stuff. Was that your kind of experience like then? Because like I don't know, what did you feel you kind of missed out in that period?
I feel like I didn't miss out because I ended up doing it after.
Yeah, it was just delayed a
But
bit.
yeah, it was just delayed, and you know, I was never a very social like person growing up, and I feel like that was the age that I might have tried to kind of like integrate myself a little bit more, because it's, you know, secondary school, like you're making friends, you're talking to people and stuff, but then that was just like over for me. Like I just wasn't able to do that until I came to college and did everything kind of like, you know, a few years later. And I mean, I'm glad that I waited in a sense, because there is a bit more maturity when you start doing these things. Like, I don't know, like even drinking and stuff and going out and all that. Like I didn't do that when I was a teenager, so I'm doing it now. Well, I don't drink that much, but like,
Sure.
yeah, there's
Just kind of like nightlife, I guess, in general.
yeah. It's I definitely think that I would have done it then if I could have, but I'm doing it now anyway. So
Yeah.
like, you know, I'm a very no regrets person, and it wasn't my fault anyway that we were all locked at home. You know,
Was lockdowns in Spain particularly harsh? Because over here it's like everything was just gone. Was there anything you could do?
oh no,
It's just
nothing you
completely
could
locked
do.
down.
It was completely locked down. And, you know, it was hard because, yeah, as I said, it was only me and my mum at home, and she's self-employed and stuff. So it, you know, it's still affecting us.
Yeah, of course.
Today, you know. But yeah, no, it was complete lockdown, and it was terrible because, you know, you're stuck inside with your own thoughts, and but I feel like that also motivated me to write more, and to that's when I started kind of like recording my songs and kind of like starting to produce them in a sense. I wasn't good at it, like, but you know,
got to learn.
Yeah, you do have to.
You kind of like learn on the job. It's like, I think
Yeah.
it's kind of the best way. And actually, one thing that's interesting you were talking about, kind of like, because like you're kind of like basically just at home, you kind of got to mature a little bit before you actually got to put out music and kind of. Do you ever reflect on lyrics and go, geez, if I was acting this even like 2 years ago or something like that, it'd probably come at it from a different angle. Like maybe you have the perspective to kind of go, I can be a bit more introspective about it. I can be a bit more, I guess, I don't know, kind of be a bit more analytical, I guess.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, definitely.
Less reflective is what I was trying to say, sorry.
Yeah. I don't even know if I'd be doing music right now if it hadn't been for the lockdown. I don't think I would have started releasing until like, because I released a horrible song like just after lockdown. It was actually terrible, like.
Okay.
But it was kind of like this ballad, and it was just to kind of like test the water and see how to upload to streaming services and stuff like that. I've taken it down since, so don't try and look for it. But yeah, if lockdown hadn't happened, I wouldn't have done that, and I definitely wouldn't have, you know, come here and thought about forming a band. So I don't know if it would even be a thing to like be like reflect more or less on what I was releasing, because I don't even think I'd be releasing, you know. I don't know if I would.
So when you came to Ireland then, I mean, what courses did you study at BIMM actually?
Commercial modern music, like the songwriting stream.
Yeah. And so what was the aspiration then to kind of start a project here and to build it, or were you just kind of like, I'm just figuring out what I want to do in life?
I was very much figuring it out. I came here because I liked writing songs and I liked recording them. And then here I realized that, you know, you can actually like form a band of your own songs. It didn't have to be like covers of other people and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's kind of what I want to do. I'd still want to be, you know, working in the music industry, even if I don't do the band or anything. I'd love to just be a songwriter or like a composer or something like that. But yeah, I'm gonna hope that the band goes well.
Well, it seems to be going really well so far. So when did the band actually form then? Because like we're saying, 2021, I guess would have been. I guess the autumn of 2021 would have been when you started college there.
Yeah.
Are all the members in your band also on your course or in BIMM?
So all the members of my band are in BIMM. I'm the only one in third year. They're all in fourth year.
Okay.
But the band started kind of like at the beginning of 2022. Like around March maybe. I think it was March March because we had
It's near the end of the academic year.
Yeah. Because we got offered a gig and I got offered a gig and then I just decided to do it with the band, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking of doing more of a like acoustic thing, like just singer-songwriter stuff. But then I was like, oh, I have this song, Emigrate, that I'd like to try out with the band and stuff. So I just like sent out some texts to musicians. I remember being so nervous about sending them
Right.
because, you know, like I was still adapting to speaking English again and I was just like shaking sending them because I'd never like done anything like this before, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It was always with the cover band. They contacted me because I'd like heard me sing and stuff. So I was never the one actively like seeking something.
Sure.
So it was nerve-wracking. I almost didn't send them, but I'm glad I did. And I formed a band, but it's not the same band that I have right now. It's not the same lineup. Yeah. And then January this year was when I asked Zyra, Sarah, and Ash, who are my actual band now, to, you know, if they could like do a few rehearsals for a gig because my other band wasn't available, and you know, like I don't know if you know, Meg from Tone Deaf.
No.
Yeah, but like she used to be my drummer, and another girl named Jodie and Emma Williams. She's also doing music.
I recognize the name.
Yeah. They were my band at first, but then they got quite busy with their own projects. So I just decided, like, why not like just get some new people in and see what they have to kind of like offer and see what I can work out with them and stuff. And like we've been like good friends ever since, you know, and I feel like that's a really good thing to have with your band, to just like get along well.
Yeah.
And, you know, and yeah, that worked out, and I'm really happy with the band right now, and I hope they're happy too.
So when it actually kind of came to the music, I mean, like, because I mean, obviously you're kind of, I guess, debut single. I mean, I know there are demos kind of out at the moment and stuff, but your, I guess, official debut is coming out soon.
Yeah.
I was wondering, like, how much, because you were mentioning Emigrate was kind of like a song you already had. I was wondering how much of the music, because, you know, I've seen you guys live and, you know, obviously you have a full set worth of songs.
Yeah.
How much of it is kind of individually written by you and how much of it was kind of collaborative with the band?
The initial ideas and like chords and stuff for most of them I come up with, for all of them basically, and then I just bring them to the band. I also sometimes have them arranged like on a DAW or something and say, okay, well, this is more or less what I'm looking for, then they can add like whatever they want to it and stuff like that. So yeah, it is kind of like I come up with the basic idea and the basic structure of the song, and then I bring it to the band and we work something out together.
Yeah.
And there's songs that I've brought that we have done once and not done ever again, because it's like maybe they worked in my head, but then in a live setting and stuff, they just, you know, didn't, or they just didn't have enough energy to match the rest of the set or something. But yeah, that's more or less how they all come together.
Yeah. So then when it kind of comes to, like, you know, having that, as you're saying, like the kind of consistent band members now that you have, I don't know, because, like, you know, you guys as a collective start gigging like pretty much non-stop throughout the year so far. I mean, like, I was wondering, like, was that actually challenging getting shows like without having much out there, like in terms of music to kind of reference, or you know, obviously, I mean, BIMM really brings connections. We've mentioned the Ladies First Covenant thing, that the gig that was on, like obviously that's like arranged by BIMM and stuff, by BIMM members. But like in general, like how do you feel like actually getting shows was once you kind of established the band?
Yeah, I feel like the release is going to help a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like the demos that we've put out on SoundCloud, and also I did like a songwriting challenge during the summer.
And also the 30 songs.
Yeah,
in July.
30 songs. That was that was funny, but I feel like that does give people a bit of an insight into like what we're like and what we sound like, and it's easier for them to say, oh, like this would match the vibe of this gig or whatever. And but I am hoping, and we have a like great month ahead of us. We have like 4 gigs, but I hope that the single gives us a bit more exposure and kind of like, and also for like bigger gigs and stuff, because sometimes you kind of feel like you're stuck at a level, especially because I've been doing it for like over a year now. It's like, okay, what's the next thing we can actually do? But yeah, definitely, and I feel like we've gotten so many opportunities from just people like going on our SoundCloud and being like, oh, we like this song, we'd like to have yous like play a set or whatever. But yeah, I don't know, I'm excited for the single to come out because I feel like it will bring a few more opportunities.
Yeah. Actually, when it came to the single then, to Emigrate, I mean, I guess what kind of like push it as like the lead single to go with? Like what kind of made you go, okay, this is what I want, that's like the introduction to the band?
Yeah. So I feel like it's a very introductory song, is that the word? Sorry.
Yeah, introductory, yeah.
It always felt like that was the song that best captured our essence, and because it's very wordy, it's very like lyrical, but at the same time it's the kind of style of music that we want to be doing in the future, you know. And I don't know, whenever I played songs to people and stuff, and even at the start of BIMM, like when we were sending each other like demos and stuff like that, everyone would say that song Emigrate is really good, like, and you know, it takes a few people to tell you to actually be like, oh, this might actually be like okay, you know. You might actually be able to release this at some point. So yeah, but I feel like that song has the words Martina Moon's written on it. And I'm proud of it as well, which is something that, you know, I find it hard to say for a really long time that, you know, I'm proud of this project or whatever. I feel happy that I've done this, but I am proud of it. It is.
It should be.
Thank you.
But do you find, like, as even when people kind of give you positive feedback after a show, so even like something like me reaching out and going, hey, I saw your show and I like this, or any kind of like press I'm sure you guys are going to be getting in the immediate future. Yeah, I was wondering, do you find that kind of like reaffirming, kind of going, okay, like what I'm doing actually is worthwhile? Or are you kind of, because I know some artists are kind of like, it doesn't matter how much positive feedback they get, it's just like once they're in their head about it, it's like, I can't, you know.
Yeah.
I was wondering, were you kind of aligned in that?
Definitely, it definitely helps a lot. Because like we went through a time period where, as I was saying, we felt a bit stuck.
Yeah.
And we felt like nothing was really, like, we were putting so much effort into it and nothing was really coming out of it, you know. So it's so rewarding to have someone come up to you after a gig and be like, someone that you don't know, because like friends can say what they want, you know, and I appreciate it when friends say, oh, that was a great set or whatever. But like when someone that you haven't seen before in your life comes up to you and is like, that was really actually really good, it's like, you know, it makes it worth it, because it makes know that if you try hard enough, you're gonna like end up, you know, getting more people to say that and to listen to you and everything. And I definitely feel like if it weren't for people saying, "Oh, I love that song, Emigrate," you know, the song wouldn't be out if it weren't for those people. So yeah, it's definitely. And thank you so much as well for asking us to do the interview, because it you know, it makes you excited about the future. It just gives you something to look forward to with the band and everything. It gives you something to hold on to so that you don't give up and say, oh, fuck it, like venues are expensive and and you know, you're paying for rehearsals that you're not getting the money back, so it's kind of like hard to not give up. But it's worth it in the end, you know.
Well, yeah, and thanks for coming. I try to reach out, and if I see bands I think are interesting, give a leg up if I can. But one thing I was kind of like, I was wondering, like, so you kind of mentioned, like, with the new single, you're hoping it kind of can get you in front of new people and kind of see you. Do you find with the gigs you've done so far, and like I said, like 2023, from what I've seen, it's been a very extensive year of gigs for you guys. Do you find that you're playing to the same people a lot, or do you find that you're actually reaching out to, you're seeing different faces at each show, or how do you think it works?
Yeah, I feel like for a little bit we were only playing for kind of like a BIMM crowd,
right?
Which is fair. Like we are a band that like formed in BIMM and stuff, and we would go to the gigs that everyone else would go to, because it's what you do when you're in music college, you know. But yeah, I feel like the ones coming up now, we're trying to find new audiences and find like other people that wouldn't necessarily be like music students or anything, but they could be like, I don't know, like art students or media students or whatever. And we're that way we're kind of trying to reach a bit of a wider audience, which is, I feel like it's necessary if you're putting out a song that is not the same 50 people that go to all of your gigs, you know?
Well, no, I think also like the kind of benefit you guys have is that like your music is very accessible. I mean, like you know, because like with BIMM, I find like some artists are kind of like a lot more experimental and abstract, and it's kind of difficult to find a mass audience. So I kind of feel like it's always going to be the art scene. But then I think like what's interesting is like from kind of a lot of BIMM artists I've interviewed, I mean, there's a lot of them who are very into kind of like sort of mainstream pop and kind of influence that. I think you guys have like a nice niche where it's like, I know it's a very specific kind of like influence, like we're talking like kind of 60s, 70s pop and folk music influence, but simultaneously it's like, you know, I think for a modern audience it's not like totally alien.
No, I'm such an advocate for pop music and for making good pop music, you know, and like I listen to pop all the time. Like if you look at my Spotify Wrapped, you'll probably see like, well, not Harry Styles that much anymore, but like, you know, I love Lady Gaga. I love even people who are doing it today, like Dua Lipa and stuff like that. Bruno Mars as well. Bruno Mars is like one of my favorite artists. I know he's not like strictly pop, but he is. Anyway, but yeah, it's like when I was trying to write the press release for Emigrate and stuff, I was thinking like, what can I say? Because I was really blocked, and I was like, I'm just going to talk about making pop and stuff like that. And I feel like loads of people, like especially in BIMM and stuff, kind of are scared of the pop label. Yeah, because it's like, you know, you want to be alternative and you want to be different and you want to be whatever, but pop is good. Pop, you know, making it accessible for people and making music for a wider audience isn't necessarily bad. I think it's good. I think music should reach as many people as possible, you know?
Totally.
And yeah, I don't want to ever be scared to make something sound poppy or like catchy, you know? So I think a lot of our music has very melodic lines and very like catchy lyrics and stuff like that, and I think that's a positive thing to me. That's that's what it's all about.
One thing I wanted to ask you actually, because you mentioned the 30-song July recording you did the project. I was wondering, did any of those songs kind of like eventuate into Martina Moon's kind of taking the songs that you kind of wrote during that and kind of expand it onto something, or are they just kind of existing as their own thing?
They're actually only starting to come into the set and stuff. We were doing, for the first time ever, we're doing an hour-long set for our release gig because we're headlining, and it was like, well, we kind of have to, you can't just do a 30-minute set and be like, see you later. But yeah, some of the songs, like, I don't know, I wrote one that I had to write kind of like the disco beat, because I had prompts and stuff for 30 days, because if not I would have just sat there and been like, oh my god.
You need the bass line,
so I wrote one with the disco beat, and we're using that one. We're using a few of them for like the set, and I hope that I can, like, by working on them more with the band, we can like take them somewhere, because there's some that I'm really proud of,
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are shit, but like what can you do when you're writing a song every day? Like, you just have to go with the first thing that comes to mind.
Well, that's kind of the editorial process, I guess, of like kind of going, okay, this is something, this isn't. It's like, but in a weird way, I mean, like, again, you're kind of like exposing the behind the scenes kind of thing in front of everyone. Like, so it's kind of like a strange scenario to be in. But like, I think with any artist, like you were saying, like some of it's shit, but it's like, I don't know. A lot of my stuff is mirrored too. So I don't know. I think any creative person, it's like, I don't know, for every like little nugget, there's like a lot of there's a mountain of shit.
No, definitely. And it is interesting to see the process, I feel like, because, well, for the 30-day song, I kind of like copied Japanese Breakfast, Michelle's owner, and loads of her demos from that time period made it into songs that she has on albums and stuff. So it's like, and you listen to them and you're like, I'm sorry about this, but like, if I had written this, I would have probably thrown it away. Like, I've never thought that could actually make it into a song. But it's good to have the kind of like critical thinking and the sense of like curating stuff, of being like, this is useless, but this maybe, like, I know it's shit at the moment, but it could maybe become something good, become something bigger.
Do you ever mess around with the kind of elements of the demos you have, kind of like, I could take a bit from this and kind of, I don't know, Frankenstein it together?
Yeah, I've thrown like a few different demos into a DAW together and just like played around with it and like made different sections, and then been like, oh, this is a bit weird. Sure. But it's fun to just play about with stuff and just think of ways to make ideas into full songs, because I feel like that's what most people struggle with, is like, anyone can have an idea, but not everyone has the drive to take it somewhere and to make it into something not necessarily complete, but at least something a bit more developed than just the initial idea.
Yeah, this is something I struggle with actually when I'm doing like writing, because obviously I do this, but like I do like creative writing and stuff, and I do like other stuff outside of it, and what I find like I struggle with, and I don't know, like I'm not a musician myself, I don't play professionally, I guess. I can play, but
then you are a musician.
Yeah, thank you. But one thing I was gonna say is like when I'm doing writing and stuff, like I logically I know, okay, the first draft is gonna be shit, but you kind of have to mess with it and kind of meld it and fix it. But then I don't know, when I'm actually doing the first draft, I'm kind of like, this is painful. This is difficult. I don't know, like as a musician, do you find that too, where it's like, you kind of have the idea in your head, and it's like, okay, I don't know, like try and translate, I guess, what's in your mind, because in your mind, I find like for me, like writing, I have all this great prose. I'm like, that's really good. And then when I actually sit down to put it to paper, I'm like, shit, how do I express this? You know what I mean? I don't know if you have that feeling too, where it's like the first draft has to be great.
The first draft doesn't have to be great for anything, and that's something I've always struggled with is that I'm a perfectionist. And I know this is such a funny thing to say, but I am a perfectionist, and I feel like whenever I start, I don't know, an essay or something, I always kind of try and start with the final thing, like with I always
Work
try and
backwards,
do,
guys.
I'm always trying to write as if I was writing the final thing. It's like, it's not necessary. It's, you know, you have to get your ideas down first. And actually the 30-day song thing, the 30, whatever.
3 day song
that,
challenge, I guess.
helped me a lot with getting ideas down, because it's like you're forced to, you know, and
You can't second guess yourself.
and it is painful, and some of the things I was like, what the actual fuck, Martina, like, how long have you been writing songs, like, what is this? But it's like, you know, you look at a block of wood and you're like, if you need to make it into a table, like, you have to figure out how to do that, you know. Same with music, and the more you do it and the more often you write songs and the more you put yourself through that process of actually completing stuff, even if it's not good, the faster it'll come to you, because you'll have all the techniques that you know work for you, and you have, you know, like, the
it's
knowledge
like training
to
a creative muscle in a way. It's like exercise, basically.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like I forget to train it so much. I forget to actually sit down, like, even once a week. Like, sometimes you just feel like you're too busy for these things, but you are a songwriter at the end of the day, and you are an artist, and you have to, because that is your thing, you know. But yeah, I feel like the more you train it, the easier it comes to you. And there's also, like, you can lose your motivation very easily, because you're like, oh, I wrote this great song, for example, one day, but now I'm just writing shit stuff. Like, why is this happening to me? I am able to write those songs.
Yeah, it's very frustrating.
Yeah. But, you know, another song like that will come to you, even if you believe it or not. And I was talking to my best friend, Alana. She also manages a band. Her dad is a songwriter, and I was talking to him for a little bit the other day, and he was asking, you know, do you ever feel like you'll dry out? Do you ever feel like you're going to run out of ideas? And I said, yeah, I do sometimes, and it's very frustrating. And he said, like, he told me that he spent like a 3-year period where he wasn't writing anything, but then slowly he started writing stuff that he wouldn't normally write, like kids songs and, like, I don't know, like, stuff like that. And he kind of got it back and better than it was, you know. He started working on it more often, and he had all these ideas from, like, the 3 years that he hadn't actually sat down to write. And, you know, he just started doing it again, and by doing it constantly, he got back to, you know, being a songwriter. And I feel like it's good to hear that from someone who's been doing it for so long, because it's like
affirming or something.
because I already feel like, and I feel like this happens to so many people, but I already feel like I'm too old to be doing what I'm doing, you know. And I'm like, no, but
Okay, no, I'm not. I don't mean to. No, I get it. Like, I'm not dismissing it. Sorry, I just
no, of course, but, like, you see people, like, I don't know, and I know they're all, like, nepo babies and stuff, but it's still, like, you see Billie Eilish, and she's writing, like, full albums and stuff, and it's like, it kind of, like, makes you think, like, why can't I do that, you know? Is it, like, especially when you're doing such a, like, when you're writing kind of, like, more mainstream or, like, more accessible music, it's like, if it, like, the industry has created such a, like, high standard and such a, like, low age threshold for
Right.
people who can succeed, because like they want them to have like a long career, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm only 21 and I already feel like I'm, you know, like missing out on stuff. So yeah, kind of like,
That's really crazy.
yeah,
I'm not again, I'm not being dismissive, but it's
Yeah.
like from hearing that kind of perspective, it's like, I don't know, to me, you're like so young, like, geez, like,
Yeah,
you know, you already
yeah.
feel like over the hill.
yeah, but
I get that too, but like I'm pushing 30 and I get it. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, and it's refreshing to, going back to what I was saying about my friend's dad, is refreshing to know that that, like, you know, having done it for so long, that it's still possible. Because I always feel like, you know, like at some point I'm going to have to settle and find a like 9 to 5 job or something, but it's like, no, I have to keep going. I just have to keep writing, you know.
The other thing, like, because we're talking about like the well of inspiration drawing up, but like the other thing you have to kind of consider too is that, like, you know, there's life experience you have that you can't like really anticipate now at this point in your life,
Yeah.
and like it's going to be different for everyone. You know, everyone's an individual with their own different life experience, so there's just going to be stuff that is going to happen to you that's going to inspire things that you just can't even really anticipate. You know? Do you ever think about like that and that kind of like third person perspective, where it's like, you know, I can't really predict the future, so I don't know what's going to inspire me.
Yeah, and you know, there's an evolution as well in the themes that I write about now, as opposed to the ones that I used to write about when I was like 15, you know. And it's like I've lived much more, and it's not necessarily better or worse, it's just different, and I have different experiences, and I have a different kind of like outlook on life and stuff like that now. And you know, everything changes, and I can't remember the philosopher, but like this like ancient Greek philosopher said that like everything flows, and I do really believe that. And I know it sounds really like pretentious or whatever, but I do feel like things change constantly, and the person I am today is not the same person that I will be in 5 years. We'll have different values, different friendships, different everything. So that kind of helps me have hope for, in that sense of like, I'm gonna have stuff to write about anyway. It's not like I'm gonna like just stop living. Well, I might die, but like
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. But
well, I mean, someday we all die.
But I'm not gonna lock myself in a room and just not do anything for years. And if I did, that would also probably inspire something. So like, there's always somewhere to find inspiration.
Do you find like if even if like Martina Moon's were to disband, like say in a couple of years, or like because anything can happen, like circumstances can happen, or maybe even at some point you might continue as a solo project. You know, everyone's adapting, I guess. Like, do you find like, regardless of where you kind of go, whether you start a new project, whether you continue as a solo artist, whether this project continues for the rest of your career, do you find like I don't know, confident in sort of going like, okay, I can adapt, like as a creative, as an artist?
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like as an artist, that's the first lesson we have to learn, is that we need to adapt to, well, constantly. Like, we need to adapt constantly, and I feel like it is scary because you never really know what you're going to have to adapt to. Especially when you've gone through COVID and lockdown and everything. It's like, that kind of feels like the worst that could happen, but like it might not be, you know? And but I feel like there is such a like, there's power in knowing how to adapt, and there's power in knowing that, you know, you're not the only person in the world, and you're not like, what you're living right now is not the only thing that exists, you know. It's not the only situation that exists. So it's like, you're gonna have to just change, and it's not even like you, not necessarily like voluntarily, like some things will make you change and will make you adapt, because if not, you're just never going to do anything with your life, you know?
It's very positive outlook, I think, because like I don't know, I think people can get kind of overwhelmed by that kind of ambiguity of the future, you know. But I think like just knowing that it's like, okay, well, you know, I will change, and it's just inevitable. I'm not gonna be the same person I am now for the rest of my life. That's a good thing. Like I was actually talking to another BIMM band, the Amniotics, if you're familiar with them, and I was talking, and like they were kind of saying like, you know, like again to me, like they're so young, but like they were kind of like saying a lot of similar things too, where it's like, you know, oh, you know, I feel like, you know, I'm getting kind of like you know, kind of like maturing and getting, and it's like, you know, for everyone is maturing, you know what I mean? Everyone is, but like I was saying to them, and I didn't mean to be like dismissive, and I hope I didn't come across as such, but like kind of like when I look back in my life, like I think like the kind of 10-year, like about an 8-year period from like about 15 to 23, when I look back on it, kind of blends together for me in a lot of ways, where I kind of like, I'll be telling a story and be like, yeah, when I was a teenager, this happened, I think about it, I was like, I was actually 21 when that happened, or stuff like that.
Oh no, I definitely feel like a teenager still. I have not, my mind has not had that transition between teenager and being in my 20s yet.
Yeah, mine still hasn't had most 30.
Well, that's good in a sense as well, because it's like, I feel like the world needs more teenagers, because they're just so loud and outspoken. And I feel like, you know, kind of like the traditional meaning of maturing implies that you're settling for things that you don't necessarily want, you know?
Right.
And
it's getting complacent, I guess. Yeah, where I think like, it's a good point where it's like, you know, you have the righteous indignation of a teenager. I want to change the world, I want the betterment, but the maturity to kind of be able to express it and to kind of, I don't know, do it in a way that will actually bring about change, I think is kind of cool. I think actually what you're seeing like now, I've got this maybe transitions a bit into, I want to talk about some of the gigs you have going up. Like, you guys are doing a gig with Sprint, Candino, Trinkets, and sorry?
Wizard Fruit and Trinkets,
Wizard Fruit, Trinkets. It's coming up the 29th. Is it Workman's Main Room or Workman's Cellar?
Workman's Main Room.
Okay, so that's coming up, and like obviously, I mean, like you see now with kind of like with Gaza and the situation that's happening there, and also like with the Ukraine and stuff like that, you see a lot of artists like really kind of like making a stand and kind of making a kind of political declaration, which, you know, I don't even think like 10 years ago you would have really seen that. It's very inspiring to see, and I think like it's great to see, like, because, you know, there was also a similar gig with like Lancome that was going to be at Vicar Street that's now at the arena, so you're seeing kind of artists of all kinds of sides, sides just taking a stance against this, and I think that's really cool. I was wondering like how you guys got involved with that and kind of like what people can expect from that show.
To me it's really important to speak about these things as an artist, because, you know, sometimes you have to know when to speak, because like you just have to support the causes that you think are, well, that you believe in, but also you kind of have to have the perspective of like, I'm not the one living it, maybe, perhaps. So yeah, there's a bit like, you know, we just wanted to help out as much as possible, and I think that, you know, the conflict that's happening now in Gaza is really unfair, and it's just not, you know, they're not fighting in like equal terms, you know, and it's not even a fight, it's just a massacre.
It's genocide.
It's genocide. And I think it's important for us to do as much as we can to help out and to, you know, do something from here, because like we might not have the resources to change anything individually, but, you know, you have a band that's as big as Sprint that, you know, not to be a fangirl, but I've been following them for like 2 years.
Yeah, same. I love Prince.
I am obsessed, and to have them, you know, who are touring, who are like all over the world and stuff like that, come back to Dublin and play a gig in Workman's. gives me so much hope that there's people in the industry who want to do good and who want to like be on the right side of history.
Yeah.
And what you were saying about like being like bands being more, and like musicians and stuff being more outspoken about like their political beliefs and like stuff, I think it's refreshing to see that people are doing that, because there's no art without politics, and there's no art without context.
Yeah.
And I feel like removing all of that from the conversation just doesn't make any sense. You'd just be making AI music, You'd just be making something that's not, because everything's affected by society, everything's affected by, the climate that you live in. And I feel like people addressing that is not just important, it's kind of like vital for everything.
Yeah.
For everything.
And actually, the interesting thing is we were talking earlier about like pop music, and like I think for years like pop was sort of a genre, like from people who were like managing pop artists and for record labels and stuff. It was always like avoid politics, and it's like I think it's really fresh, because even like something like during the Iraq War like 20 years ago, it was like Britney Spears, Eminem was like don't talk about it, what I mean? And like I think Eminem got in shit because I think he spoke about it, but like a lot of artists were kind of their speech and their expression was kind of suppressed because might hurt sales or something like that, to speak against them. Where I think like now, kind of in the sort of era we're in of like self-releasing, of kind of self-publishing, of kind of networking connections in a very organic way that seems very kind of divorced from traditional kind of industry standards of let's just sell units. I think like now we're seeing, I don't know, like we're seeing pop music that's like more substantive, and that's kind of like, you look at someone like Taylor Swift, and she like makes very clear political declarations a lot. I think like there was actually annoyance for a couple of years where people felt she wasn't as vocal as she could have been, and like now it's like I think like pop artists like Dua Lipa you were mentioning earlier, like she's very very vocal about her beliefs, and I think like that's really cool. It's like it's sincere kind of politics, sincere art in a way that could potentially be divisive. I think like Dua Lipa for years has been very pro-Palestinian, very anti the kind of genocide and the kind of the suppression of rights there. I was wondering, do you feel like we're in kind of like an era, I guess, of like where pop music can be political and can be political while simultaneously also accruing a kind of mass audience? Can music of resistance be pop culture?
I think it can. I'm like gonna take it like a stance on this. I think it can, and I think it should. And I think, going back to like the Taylor Swift thing that you were talking about, it's like, to me, I was glad to like hear that she stood for something, and I'm not a massive fan of Taylor Swift, but like, she does have an impact on the music industry, like that, like we've seen that, like she's selling tickets for like hundreds and hundreds.
Yeah, it's insane.
So it's like, it's, I am grateful, and I think as musicians we should be grateful to people like her that are bringing this into the mainstream, that are like normalizing, like standing for something. And I think that's the way it should be. I think that doesn't take away from it being mainstream or being like pop. It's just, if you decide that you don't want to listen to an artist because they have different views than you, that's just, I don't really agree with you, but if that's what you want to do, go on and do it. But, it's, to me, it's useful to, it also gives you context on their music and stuff like that, and I just feel like it's interesting to study it from that point of view as well, and to learn what their motivations were when they were writing as a songwriter. Because I don't know, I do find it really interesting, and I think it should be this way from now on.
To kind of give a counter argument, I was wondering, do you ever worry about like get the amount of influence a pop artist can have, because like as we were saying, like now we have kind of pop artists who are kind of pushing forward for kind of progressive values, but at the same time you have someone like a Kanye West who's like very much the opposite.
You were gonna talk about Kanye.
No, but I just wanted to ask because like I do worry about like that kind of influence where it's like, you have him basically denying the Holocaust, you have him having all kind of weird conspiracy theories pushing into the mainstream. I was wondering, is there ever like I don't know, how do we kind of like counter that where it's like, do people speak with their wallets? Do people sort of say, I'm not buying this stuff from that? I don't know if there's a way to regulate that. Maybe it's unfair to ask you. Like.
No, I find it interesting. I like to discuss this with people and see like the different opinions and stuff. I feel like with the Kanye thing, there's always going to be that risk. You know, there's always going to be people who advocate for things that are harmful, but you're gonna find that in music, outside of music, anywhere. So it's like, people at the end of the day choose what to believe and who to believe in, and it's like heartbreaking to see that mostly like teenage boys and stuff like that who look up to him are following what he says and are like kind of adopting those ideas, but at the same time there's so much good being put into the world that it's like you can't just limit that for the sake of not having the negative side of it, because the negative side of it is going to happen anyway, and those teenage boys are going to find someone else to follow, and it's heartbreaking, but it's the reality of it, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm like informed enough to be speaking about these things, but that's just what
one other thing, I guess, like it's also this argument of separating the art from the artist. So there are people who are like, I disagree with Kanye, but like I still like his albums and stuff like that. And like, do you find that you can separate art from artists, or do you kind of feel like no, you have to make a kind of all or nothing kind of stance?
I feel like you can have like all of that to a degree, because liking his music, like you can't stop someone from liking someone's music, even if you're like the most horrible person in the world. If you listen to something and listen without knowing who it is and are like, I actually like this, then like that's fair, but I don't think we should. I don't know.
That's okay.
I don't think we should necessarily separate the art from the artist, in the sense that the artist does impact the art heavily, because they did write it, and people with big personalities and like Kanye and stuff. The negative side of that is that they are more than artists. They're like figures that people kind of like cling on to and like follow and form parasocial relationships with. And I think that's where the danger is. It's like you're not just enjoying their music, you're idolizing them. And that's not their art. That is them as a person, as a persona even.
And then see also the other interesting about like the money you spend, because like I know, for example, people have been very against like J.K. Rowling because she's had some like some transphobic kind of perspectives, but it goes beyond that. Because like, well, if you buy like Harry Potter books or merch, she's getting kind of it, and like she is like directly, so if you're against like transphobia, it's like she is directly giving money to kind of like anti-trans kind of organizations and stuff like that. So it's like people do have to be kind of cognizant in that sense. But I think like with Spotify, there's kind of a detachment, because like, well, I already buy my Spotify account like premium subscription anyway. Does it really matter if I listen to like Kanye West or something? You know what I mean? I think there's like a degree of separation there where it's like, okay, they can understand like if I buy this Harry Potter book, it's going directly like there's an exchange of money that's going to be kind of given to JK, but it's like I don't know how people kind of fail to realize that, like, you know, the money kind of accrues and you're still kind of giving influence. I don't know.
That's a very valid point, and I feel like definitely like like, you know, like streaming services and stuff like that and the internet has done that to music, where it's like you're not, your main source of income is not physical copies of your albums or CDs or whatever. It is mainly like ads and stuff and live music, but also Spotify, you know, and like you do feel less guilty as a consumer if you're just listening to a few of his songs or whatever on your phone or whatever. But like, yeah, I feel like that's really interesting that with the book thing, because book is a physical thing that you can buy, and it is like you are making that decision to go to the shop and buy the book, and you are going through that whole process, and you know, you have time to think. But when you open your phone and there's a Kanye song on your thing, you're just like, oh, gonna give this a listen, you know?
Sure.
There's not really a thought process behind it. But yeah, that's really interesting.
I don't want to sound this too long because I actually want to ask you something else. But the interesting thing now is that we have kind of audiobooks coming up. So I think maybe we might find that in a similar thing where it's like, well, Harry Potter's already on Spotify anyway, so I might as well listen to the audiobook. Anyway, one thing I want to talk about. So the single comes out the 22nd, and I want to plug your other gigs too. So on the 23rd, you're playing Shanae. That's the launch gig. That's the hour-long show. Everyone should go to that. And then 28th, you're also playing Workman's Cellar with speakers and
Public Warning.
Public Warning. And so those are the 3 shows for this month. Is that correct?
Yeah. We have an acoustic set at the HMV shop on Henry Street on the 25th. Which hasn't like come out, like been announced yet, but it is there. But it is there, you know, and like I'm just really excited for this month because I had a bit of a, you know, like pause from like gigging and stuff over the summer because I was back in Spain. I was doing kind of like my own like songwriting stuff and stuff like that, and it's exciting to come back and have like a few gigs lined up, and especially good gigs like the ones we're playing, because it's really nice to get to also for like your release gig and stuff to get to choose the acts that are going to support you. And I just sat down with Alana, with the manager, and we were going through like people that we like and people who could potentially like send us demos and stuff like that, and we settled on Hannah Kinsler, who's quite big in like the busking scene here in Dublin, but she's so sweet, like she's so talented, like incredibly talented, and she's also very poppy, which I really liked, and I wanted to give her that space and that opportunity to like get her music out there, and like because I really believe in her, and I really think she's an amazing artist, and I think that pop should have more of a presence in the like kind of like small Dublin scene.
So just like noisy post-punk. Which I like too.
That's something I always struggle with, because I do give out a lot about, you know, male-dominated shoegaze, post-punk, noise rock scene, but at the same time, I enjoy listening to that music. It's just such a biased scene.
I think it's good that we are seeing acts like Sprints and Male, which are kind of like incorporate women into that too, and non-binary people actually with the amniotics as well. It's like, so it's kind of cool. Like I do agree with that. Like it's like, you know, I don't know. I don't want to blush too much about this, but I do think it's kind of cool how I don't know. I see the Dublin music scene as kind of just someone who's going to gigs. I'm just like, I'm looking at it as kind of an outsider, just like looking at the people on stage. And like, I do find there's a lot of versatility on display now, and I think that's really great to see. Like, I think like it adds like a lot of unique perspectives onto I don't know, onto life, it makes it more interesting than just seeing like, you know, 4 bands with like 4 guys all the time.
No, definitely. And I am guilty of only going to certain type of gigs and stuff, but even like, because I always end up going to like BIMM gigs and stuff, and it always ends up being like shoegaze, like rock, like stuff like that, and I enjoy that. But like, I went to Fortune.
Yeah.
I went to his like EP release gig, and it was like, there's a whole hip hop scene that I knew nothing about.
Yeah.
And I felt like it felt really refreshing, but at the same time I was like, I actually should like, cop on and start going to different gigs, because it's like there's so much out there that I just don't go to because I'm stuck in the same kind of like circle.
Right.
And
the kind of hip hop scenes kind of exists outside of BIMM.
Yeah.
A lot of them are self-taught, kind of autodidactic, really great producers too, and really great musicians. Nice people too. I've interviewed some of them. They're really nice guys.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Yeah, but it's what I was saying. I kind of almost felt like guilt that I was, not going to all of these things, because it's like I'm always so vocal about supporting different types of music and like different genres and stuff like that, and then I always end up going to see the same bands, which I love, and I love that type of music, but
also like people. Like just a night out in Dublin now, it's so expensive that's like people have to kind of be selective about gigs.
Yeah.
I've seen that this actually before, like where I think like music's gotten very versatile because people have just basically the library of recorded music almost at their fingertips. But at the same time, like when it comes to choosing a gig, it's like, it is a weird thing. You were kind of mentioning earlier about like, you have to book the venue and like people don't really notice the expense of that. And then, but it's also like you book the venue and you kind of need so many people to break even, but you also have to keep the tickets at such a low price you can get people, but then also now people expect like 4 bands for a tenner. It's very difficult, like and make sure everyone gets paid for it.
Yeah, it's so hard, and like
I find like if you have a week of gigs like that, you know what I mean? It's like I have 4 gigs, so I don't know. It is difficult, I think, for people.
Yeah. I find that it's becoming really hard in Dublin to organize a gig, because like fees for everything are just going up, like. Now, like some places charge like supplement for like IMRO, and or like you have to pay an extra 50 quid for like doors, or for someone to be on doors or whatever, and or even lights, like they're not included in like the initial price. So it's like, as an independent artist, they're kind of like it's like they're limiting you. They're like saying, oh, if you don't have this amount of money, or if you don't make it back from tickets and stuff, you're gonna have to pay to play, and you're already paying to play because you're already paying for rehearsals, you're already paying to like go meet people on nights out. And I feel like people who look at the music scene from outside don't really realize this. It's that musicians make all the sacrifices. They're taking money out of their own pockets. It's not like someone is like giving it to us. Like, we're working weekend jobs and stuff like that. And it's like, it's time that someone else starts putting in a bit of like effort and sacrificing stuff like venues and stuff, just to keep the music scene going.
Right.
Because I feel like Dublin is becoming so expensive that all of us are going to have to leave at some point if nothing changes,
I think there are some good promoters who are trying to combat that. EXO and Happy Days come to mind. There's like good promoters. Actually, also, I think even some of the bigger promoters like Singular Artists, Foggy Notions, etc., etc., even the really big ones like MCD and Aikens, like, it is kind of like, to some degree, I look at like MCD and they'll have like a band, like an international band, play the Academy, let's say, and then they might like ask like a local act to like be a support act and stuff like that. So in a way, that's kind of like paying it forward a little bit. But yeah, I always felt like, some kind of like community collective thing where it's like, I don't know, if there's like some kind of like pool that everyone could just kind of contribute to, like do like a Patreon model or something like that, and kind of like, I don't know, if you're into this, like, you pay like a monthly thing, and it's like, I don't know, maybe there can be perks, like, hey, you get like a free show or something like that. I don't know, like I always thought like But what I think is cool is that we have these kind of alternative methods in a lot of
Yeah.
ways to kind of circumvent a lot of what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of cool. Like, I don't know, I'd be interested in seeing something like that kind of develop.
Yeah.
I'd be interested in playing a part in it if I could, to whatever extent I could. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if you ever thought about that, because like I know actually with the hip hop scenes you mentioned, a lot of the guys are kind of making these collectives and they're kind of pulling their stuff together. I think it'd be cooler to see that like expanded, basically a whole network worth. And like you're saying, Imro and kind of AIM is another one. Like there are kind of, I guess, somewhat collectives like that. But it's like I don't know. I'd like to see a. I don't know. I'd like to see kind of some like artists first kind of network.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like what you were saying about like Patreon and stuff like that, I've always kind of wanted to do something like that, because it's like it's such a good way for people who are just like the music you make to support you from like wherever they are in the world.
Do it directly.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like I don't know if we're still a bit too small for that. A bit like, you know. So yeah, I don't know. It is interesting though, and I feel like it's useful to build a community, and it's useful to have like people around you who support you, like people in the music industry who support you and who you would support if they needed it, you know. And yeah, it's the only way to survive, really.
Yeah. I guess like one final thing I'll ask you is, you know, obviously your single's coming out the 22nd, and you know, once you kind of like, I don't know, drop the first single, I think then there's like an expectation of like, okay, when do we do the next one? Like, and how many space between? I forget who I was talking to, but there was someone who was saying like, well, the problem is we have like basically a slow songs backlog, but it's actually getting recorded and getting it out that kind of becomes the issue. Yeah, do you find that like I don't know, like if when Emigrate comes out, like you then have like whatever your follow up single is going to be, which I don't know if you have in mind already what that's going to be, but like do you find that like okay, we can get that out within say 3 months or 6 months afterwards, or is it kind of like when we have the money we'll get it?
Yeah, so we got quite lucky because at Ladies First that you were at, the sound engineer was Keelan from Post Party. I don't know.
I recognize the name. Yeah, I recognize the band's name.
And he came up to me after, and he offered to like record a song for us for free.
Sick.
And I actually, like, when I got home, I broke down and started crying because it was like I had been saving up for ages and hadn't seen, like, I couldn't see when we would be able to record the next song, because it's such a big amount of money for someone like me who is studying and who's, you know, just trying to live in Dublin. And it was like, it's even making me emotional now, because it's like it takes one person with a bit of like vision and like to hear you and offer that to like make the second single be possible. Because the first one we got lucky because I managed to book the BIMM recording studio for like 3 hours, and we did a few takes and then sent it out to, I don't know if you know Janksy, the
Again, I keep saying that.
Yeah, he's in Banshee, I think that band. And I sent it to him, and you know, like he did it for like quite cheap, and he mixed and mastered it and stuff. And but then I was like, I probably won't be able to get the money to record anything else for like months.
Yeah.
And it's like there's so much pressure, especially with like lecturers in BIMM. They'll say, oh, you need to have a 6-month plan, and you have to like have a certain amount of singles for it to like get a bit of traction and everything. And it's, you know, I felt so much of that pressure. Even once I had Emigrate, like mixed and mastered, it was like I don't know when I'm going to be able to do the next one, and I don't know if it's even worth releasing Emigrate because I don't have anything to follow up, you know.
But then it's the other thing too, where it's like, well, if you don't have something out, it's like, it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, it is. And so then that night I got home and I started crying, and I think I cried for hours, because it was like, finally, like all the effort and everything I put into this is paying off in a way that I'm not gonna have to worry about the next single coming out. I might have to worry about the one after.
Yeah.
But it's like I have a bit more time to save up and to have a bit of money, because like you end up spending, I don't know, like cheapest maybe like 200 quid on like a studio time, and then like another 200 quid on someone to mix and master and stuff, and that's if everything goes to plan, because if you have a shit studio day and all the like recordings are bad, like you need to go in again. It's like, it's so scary to put in that amount of money if you don't know if you're getting anything in return. And at this level, we most likely aren't getting anything in return, or getting very little, you know. We're just doing it to try and get better gigs, or try and get, you know, more traction and a bit of a following, and then eventually like start making a bit of money out of it. But yeah, it was such a relief, and I'm so grateful that there's people out there that would put in hours and hours of work for free because they believe in something. And I like to think that I'm like that, and that if I had that in my hands, if I had a studio or something like that, I would try and, like, you know, look for people who I think are worth spending time on.
That's kind of what's talking too, with that kind of collective attitude. But I think you're paying it forward to too. Like, I mean, like, you know, so okay, you don't have the production studio and stuff like that, but you're kind of paying it forward by giving artists exposure and saying, okay, play the show and we'll put it out front.
Yeah.
It's a very weird thing where it's like, you know, it would be nice to kind of like, you know, be able to volunteer a lot and, you know, help people out in that way. But at the same time, you sometimes feel bad. It's like, well, am I asking them to, you know, do something without, like, is that their livelihood? It's like, am I asking them to do for no pay? Yeah. It's a very difficult balance where it's like, you know, I don't know. I don't want to go on a rant, but it's like, you know, the realities of kind of capitalism that we're kind of like live in. It's like we have to eat, and we have to kind of pay rent, and we have to do all this stuff. But like simultaneously, it'd be nice just to have that kind of organic network of like-minded people who are just interested in the art, kind of coming together and trying to. And I think you still see that. It's just like, I don't know. It's trying to find that like balance, I guess, of like, you know. But I think like for a lot of people, like whatever kind of creative endeavor you're in, whether it's like being a musician, whether it's someone like me who does writing around, whether it's you know, producers, people working textiles, like it's a loss making exercise. I mean, it's like, you know, like people barely break even, and you know, certainly no like financial surplus or anything like that. It's like, you know, you have to work regular jobs, or you have to, like, a lot of people are on the dole, or like even on like disability allowance and stuff like that. It's like, you know, you have to kind of, I don't know. It's like that's your real job, and then like everything else we're doing is like sincere and art. But I think that's like the kind of the good thing about you know, the art music thing. One final thing I wanted to ask actually is, do you find like for independent artists such as yourselves, like do you find that the network that we're kind of talking about, I guess, is kind of like healthy? Do you find that you guys can kind of I don't know, if you want to promote this new single, that you have the avenues here to get the press? Do you find that, I don't know, you can get gigs easily? And I don't know, how do you find the actual network itself kind of divorced from the financial aspect?
I feel like my friend Delana has taught me a lot about networking and just going up and talking to people and stuff, and just trying, because when we started promoting Emigrate, we just sent out emails to everyone, to absolutely everyone. And you know, it just takes a few people to answer back to get somewhere and to like get it out there, and then more people will eventually notice, you know. I know that, like, I don't know, like, we're not gonna make the Rolling Stone on like the first try, but
give it a year.
But we also love talking to like smaller publications and like smaller like radio stations, because I feel like at that level there's care for the craft and there's interest, and it's not just, oh, this is what's popular. It's like we believe in what we're playing, you know. And you know, I find that with like radio stations that have replied and stuff, that they actually say like, it's a great song, like we'd love, like we'd be honored to have it on the radio. And it's like so
sweet.
Yeah, it's sweet, and it's lovely to have people that actually take a bit of time of their day and listen to stuff, and you know, give people opportunities. Same thing as like the community thing. But yeah, it's a lot of emails, it's a lot of, you know,
corresponding.
Yeah, it's a lot of dead ends, but there's some that are not and that are worth it, you know.
Yeah, totally. I really appreciate your time. Being very gracious. I think we've been an hour and a half or two. So yeah, just like, I guess the fun thing I'll ask you, is there anything you'd like to sort of add before we wrap up, or is there anything you'd like to plug or anything like that?
I don't know, just come to our gigs and see us live. I feel like it's the best way to get a bit of a picture of what we sound like and what we are like as a band. Because we enjoy like playing live, and you know, we've worked hard on the single as well. So if people listen to that, even better, you know. Share
it around, save it, put on your Instagram story, TikTok.
Yeah, we will like say all the like Instagram.
If you want, yeah.
Yeah, we're Martina Moon's on Instagram, and you can just like follow us there and see what we have coming up and everything, because we post everything there. So yeah, I feel so weird like plugging stuff, because it's like I don't want to talk about myself.
No, it's like just an organic conversation. By the way,
yeah, it just feels unnatural to me to be like, we're Martina.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like I was talking to like a lot of musicians about. It's like, you know, you can't just be a musician anymore. You have to be like a PR person, a social media manager, and even the producer and stuff like that. Yeah. Actually, let me just ask that. Sorry, just before we really wrap up this time. Is production side of music that you'd like to get interested in? I know you're saying you did production before. Like, do you kind of like, when you're working producers, do you kind of like cover and go, "Oh, you don't know"?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the production side of things, and I feel like it's also a really good tool for songwriting.
Yeah.
And I'd love to get more into it, because I just really like working with music all the time. So I get into a zone when I'm like recording a song and stuff, where it's like I don't want to be doing anything else. I don't even want to eat, or I don't even want to drink water. I just want to produce, and I want to get better at it. And I'd love to study something to do with producing, because although it's not kind of the main thing I'd like to do, but it's so useful, and it is, to me, it's like a hobby. Like maybe songwriting is kind of like, and like performing is the like the main part of what I do, but production is also like so interesting to me, and I just want to learn about it. And it's a bit of a contradiction, because I'm really bad at technology, but then you show me a DAW interface and I'm like, I can do like anything, like even if I don't know the commands or I don't know where things are, but because I'm so interested in it, I'll figure it out and I'll learn it, you know. And I'd just love to learn more about it and do stuff for other people as well, because I feel like it's easier to hear what a song needs if it's not your own song.
No, I get exactly what you're talking about. No, that's because you kind of divorce from the creative process in a way. What I think is interesting is like production as like an extension of the kind of creative arm, because like I think a lot of people sort of see it as being kind of mechanical, the kind of mechanical side of things, where it's like, no, it's like it's as significant as playing guitar. And actually, it's interesting. You were kind of like mentioned the kind of mechanical side, but really, I mean, like if you think about all music is kind of mechanical. You have to kind of learn how to use microphones and PA systems. You have to learn like your guitar, like what amp to use, what pedals to use, and so on. Like there's like I don't know. I think there's like so much. I don't know, like mechanical things of just being a musician that you kind of have to get over if you have the passion.
Yeah, and it's so interesting if you approach it in the right way, because I'd never got like any pedals before coming to Dublin and stuff, and now I'm like, oh, this little box can make my guitar sound 100 times better. I'm just gonna figure out how to use it. And once you get past that initial fear of like, oh, this is so strange to me, like there's cables and there's, I don't know, like buttons and stuff. There's so much that you can do, and it becomes so organic and such a big part of your music that you wouldn't be able to do without it. Same as using a laptop and a DAW. It's like most of the songs that I've written, I wouldn't imagine if I hadn't like arranged them first on my laptop,
Do you ever flirt with like modifying the guitar? Do you ever like,
I always feel too scared to do that.
That's the same.
Yeah. Also, I
get nervous just like tightening it with the Allen wrench.
Yeah. Yeah, I just got my electric like last December for like a Christmas present for myself.
Yeah.
So it's just like, and that was my first electric, because my dad had always played acoustic and I had always played acoustic and stuff. And just holding it in my hands still is terrifying.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't know, I look at it and I'm like, I don't know what you do, I don't know how you work. So I'm just gonna play the strings and forget about everything else. But yeah, I'd like to get into, studying guitars and like figuring out how everything works and stuff. I'm just too scared to do it, but I need to get over that, obviously.
I remember when I did my kind of graduation, I guess, from acoustic guitar to electric, because I learned guitar and acoustic and then I went to electric, and like I was just like could not get a good tone.
Yeah.
I was like, it sounds like this on the record. Like I don't know. I was like I was so stupid about it, because like I was just like a teenager at the time. I was like, oh well, electric sounds like this on the albums I'm listening to. So I have an electric guitar now. It sometimes like it drove me insane just trying to get like a good tone.
Yeah.
Did you have that experience, like getting the tone?
Oh, I still don't know how to get the tone right. I'm useless at it, and it's weird because like I have a good ear for like most stuff. Yeah. But then it's like, I don't know, like I had a friend that would hear my tone and be like, oh, that's actually disgusting, don't ever do that again. But I feel like because now I have a blues driver, and I just ordered Hall of Fame, like the one with the shimmer and stuff. And it's just a case of just sitting with your guitar and being comfortable to sit on your own for hours and just play, like mess about with the parameters and with all the knobs and stuff. And I still haven't figured it out, but I'm trying, you know.
No, I think I went mad for it, like soon as like, oh, like just like it's like I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. I've been through that, and I'm still going through it. So,
and so I've asked everything I have to ask. It's very nice talking with you, and
very nice
best of luck with all your releases coming up.
This
near or distant. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to that episode of Post-Burnout.com interviews. We hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for more.